Most of us are aware that for many years, Pastor Dan has had a professional music career in addition to his pastoral duties at Bethesda. As a Dove Award-winning arranger, producer, and orchestrator, Pastor Dan's music has been published, sold, and performed literally around the world. He's conducted orchestras for recordings in Nashville, London, and Prague, just to name a few, and he's worked with countless professionals as he served clients from artists to publishing companies, to corporations, to TV commercials. He's done a little bit of everything. Recently, we snuck away to Nashville, Tennessee, unbeknownst to Pastor Dan, to speak with some of the singers, songwriters, musicians, and producers that Pastor Dan has worked with during his career.
I met Dan Smith, if memory serves me correctly, in 1983. My wife Becky and I were worship pastors at a church in Irving, Texas. And my wife and I had just written this brand new song called In the Presence of Jehovah. And I felt like this guy, Dan Smith, that I'd met in Dallas could do what it needed.
Working with Dan is a pleasure. He is clear, he's concise, he's the dream client of the Nashville String Machine. He lets us know what he wants, how many he needs, who he needs, and we put that together for him, and we've been doing that for over 30 years with him.
When I tell the players that the session coming up's for Dan Smith, there's a smile. There's always a smile, and that's not the way it is with everybody.
As a singer, you know, we're like children. We always want to push the button to see how far we can go. And we knew from the first session that his button didn't push very far. And you'd have fun, but it was very controlled and disciplined.
I don't remember the exact year when I first met Dan, but I think it was mid to late 80s. And I remember the specific day because I walked into the recording studio. I'd never met Dan. Walked in and he was sitting behind the recording console real straight. He had his computer, he had folders neatly arranged with our names and instruments we would be playing. And I thought, okay, this is going to be interesting.
I remember my first session with Dan. It was about 15 years ago. And it was at Classic Studio. And so here I come, you know, like I'm a nervous wreck. Okay, my first time meeting J. Daniel Smith, the legend, right? I got through it and, you know, he comes on the talk back and he was like, great. And now let's just catch a couple spots. I'm like, whew, you know, I'm in there, I've already lost 3 pounds sweating, you know, like, oh my gosh, what am I doing in here?
I got a call from my friend Chance Scoggins and he said, hey, we've got this song, we just finished this project and we really need to get the solo on it. Can you come in and do it? I'm like, sure. So I came in and sang it and loved the arrangement. And I didn't know Dan at all. He contacted me and just said, oh my gosh, I always think I know all the singers in town. And then there's someone new. Since then, we've worked together so many times, I can't remember when was the first meeting. I don't know.
When you get a J. Daniel chart, it's very clean. It's well laid out, it's well thought out. You know, there's a lot of purpose in it. And Dan will always have chart packs laid out on the table. So there'll be a guitar chart pack, keyboard chart pack, drums, bass.
Probably the most organized person I've ever worked for. I mean, down to the minute he knows what's going to get done, the order you're doing it in, the charts are right, and they're clean also in that each note has a purpose. And you're not just doubling somebody else. You know, your note is, even if you're playing third trumpet, your notes are really important.
Dan, as you know, will pretty much write out all his embellishments and articulations and all the little nuances that he wants. But every now and then he'll say, oh, here's the line, do with it what you will. And I feel like, wow, he really trusts me.
And he has real interesting notes that he'll put on him, like bass, enter here, try to think of something interesting. It seems like he can write easily in any style and genre, but it's sophisticated. It'll always be interesting.
Dan is a very musical cat. When you have somebody like that in the studio, it raises up the bar. I love that somebody can hear everything and it can have a vision and a picture for a song and make it amazing.
He was the whitest black person I'd ever met because he was so cool, you know?
He really understands how to write and produce vocals that are soulful. He also knows how to walk that fine line of, okay, a lot of his stuff that he's doing has to be accessible for just your average choir, but he knows how to bring that out in a song.
I feel a calling to play like David played, that if somebody hears this instrument on a recording, that it will affect them in a way that will point them to Christ. That's my goal. And so I think Dan promotes that and wants that. It's not just a haphazard, here we go. It's like, no, there's a purpose. We really want to see people's lives change.
And I think that everything he writes takes a trip through his heart. So when people hear it, they not only hear his gifting, they hear his anointing and they feel his anointing.
Dan knows every musician in the room. He knows all of their names.
I mean, you respond to people as much as you respond to the music. And I think that's the most important thing with Dan. He could be doing any job in the world, and he would still be Dan, and you'd still respond to him that way.
He's called me over the last 15 years several times and just encouraged me about what I was doing and the fact that he appreciated me, and he appreciated the fact that I was giving my all. What he has put into my life, I've been faithful to pass down to younger people too.
He built my confidence to know that, I can do this. As little as I may know, I felt that if I did a Dan session, I could do anybody's session. And I've done that. He's taught me well.
I can't imagine a better mentor for people under him in any way, not just musically, but even spiritually or teaching, because he's always going to expect the best. And you can't ever buck up against that because he only wants the best for you and the best for what you're doing.
He will see something in you that God has put in you, like a gift, and he'll just encourage that, who brings it out.
He doesn't come around as much anymore because he's got so much of his life dedicated to his ministry and his family and his church family, but I like seeing him. I just feel a kinship with him.
I believe with all my heart that if I called Dan Smith at 2 in the morning and said, Dan, I'm in trouble, I need you, I believe he would be up putting on clothes even while he was on the phone, trying to figure out the best way he could get to where I am to help me. And I hope that he knows that the feeling is mutual.
Dan has a way of drawing you in and loving you beyond his profession. It's a real fatherly, I can't explain it. It's a real, when you walk into a room, because he has everything in order, you feel safe. He has always been the shepherd of any session he's conducted, and I love it. We all need that.